Perfectly clear. This all made sense. I'd taken psychology courses in high school, and they were a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and quite frankly, it wasn't all that interesting. But when I understood about the relationships of the environment and its effect upon behavior, and that people could systematically make environmental manipulations that would change the probability of a behavior, it just became so logical to me that this is something that could be used under many different conditions to help a lot of different people with problems that they're having. There had been a start in the field of trying to apply the principles of behavior to a lot of different human conditions, and luckily I just happened to start right as that was kind of really taking off. And so I fell in love with it, and soon I found myself working with children with developmental disabilities, and that was in 1972 I began. And so I learned right away the value of establishing yourself as a condition reinforcer, becoming important, and I realized that I was very good at getting kids to do the things that I wanted them to do and to teach the skills. And as a result of that, I soon was involved in a classroom where I was in charge of about a dozen children and developing their programs. And again, I went on to become a consultant in the local school system for a while. Then I went on and got my doctorate and started teaching people about teaching methods, behavior analytic teaching methods. Taught at several universities along the way. I was on the child clinical faculty at West Virginia University. And then I ended up going to California, working for a regional center system, whereby I was the educational consultant for a while and also the behavioral consultant for a couple of years after that, working, trying to establish relationships with the schools to provide effective education for children with disabilities. I was also sending consultants into the homes of parents who were having disruptive behaviors. The children were having the disruptive behaviors, and the parents needed to learn how to deal with it. It was sent at first under the guise of trying to keep the children from being placed out of home because their behavior is so disruptive to the family. But then later I started realizing that there were a lot of these young children that were coming along who had signs that they were going to have problems later on. Clear indications were the lack of language development. You had children who clearly weren't asking for things, they weren't following directions, they weren't able to talk about things, they didn't have ways of accessing reinforcers like typical children did. And hence when you see this with young children, you know that when they get older, if they still don't have those language skills, they're going to have bigger problems because they're going to have less that they're able to control in their environment through appropriate means. And so I started sending people into the families' homes of younger children. I got the agency to approve the kind of, if you will, early intervention at the time. That was before early intervention was hot. But what happened was I started realizing that I was having more fun with the families and working with them than I was being an administrator. So I had to get away from that position and actually started providing the services again. What ended up happening was, now that I'm working with the families directly and I'm teaching parents how to teach language skills to their children. Again, I'm a behavior analyst, I'm not a speech and language therapist, I never claimed to be, and I'm not. But the area that I work in is behavior, and language is behavior. And so what was happening was I was teaching the parents how to be good teachers, and then they'd send their children off to school, and oftentimes I was teaching at the university there too. I was teaching at St. Mary's College in Moraga at the time. And what was interesting was I'd find that many of the teachers weren't acquiring the skills they needed to work with children, especially children with autism.
To learn more, visit partingtonbehavioranalyst.com.